Hello and welcome to a new story here on my YouTube channel. This is part 1 of the story Smith of Gods and Demons. This story is a completely new one. I hope you have a lot of fun. I wrote the story myself and it was difficult, so please enjoy chapter 1 of the story Smith of Gods and Demons. I kind of think I forgot the Smith, the word the there, but that's not really important. I hope you have fun with the story. In this story I combine multiple new stories ideas and a few older ones of mine. This is a world where cultivators try to reach immortality. I'm not even sure if it's possible right now in the story, but there are multiple different power systems. Those power systems interact with each other. I call those power sets boxes, like a metaphor, because it's easier to understand if the 3 different power systems are put into 3 different boxes. The first power system is called the spiritual system. All supernatural abilities that human can learn are those boxes. The second box is the spirit system, where emotions, belief, and fiction turn reality on its head and create spirits. Neutral, negative, or positive aligned spirits. And then there are the innate talents. If you want to understand more about this story, let's start right with the story. I hope you have a lot of fun. Let's start. Let's go.
Chapter 1. Preparations. The city of Renur unfolded beneath the living ceiling like a silver and stone dream caught between 2 worlds. Silvery metal beams arched overhead, fused seamlessly with dark basalt walls that had been polished by centuries of wind and hands. Countless forges glowed in the distance, their flames never truly dying, casting warm orange halos that mixed with the cool blue-white radiance of the glowing fungi and crystal clusters high above. Long strands of silver-green moss swayed gently from the vaulted ceiling, and the air carried a faint, constant scent of hot metal, blooming night flowers, and fresh grass, an impossible perfume for a place buried so deep beneath the burning desert surface. A breeze moved through the tunnels, cool and steady, coming from nowhere and vanishing into nowhere. It stirred the moss, tugged at loose strands of hair, and whispered past open windows as if the mountain itself were breathing. Cale stood at the wide window of his private forge, one shoulder leaning against the stone frame. His hair, extremely pale, almost silvery white blonde, caught the mixed light and glowed like moonlight on snow. He watched the city below, the vertical streets alive with soft lantern glows, the endless forges, the way everything felt more vibrant down here than the scorched wasteland above. 2 worlds, he thought. One hot and empty, the other cool and impossibly alive. He liked that he could not explain why. The unanswered questions pleased him. Behind him Suna stood motionless, arms folded, posture rigid and professionally alert. Today she wore her usual black armor, the plates fitted close and silent. Her very dark green hair was braided tightly, not a strand out of place. She looked every inch the perfect bodyguard, until the corner of her mouth twitched with the familiar promise that professionalism was only temporary. A soft crackle of energy rose from the forge behind them, the sound of metal responding to hidden forces, but Cale did not turn. His thoughts drifted to tomorrow. He would have to leave Renur. The trade deal could not be postponed. His father Geo was buried in city management, his mother assisting him, and his siblings, while he got along with them well enough, were simply not qualified. And the double, well, the double could not leave the city. Kale felt a flicker of annoyance. He would have to do this himself, again. The silence broke when the door opened. A simply dressed young man entered, clearly smaller than Suna. He wore plain gray clothes and a wide black bandage across his eyes. Though blind, he moved with calm certainty, navigating the oversized corridors and high ceilings as if he had memorized every inch. The building had never been made for normal human scale. The Dwarvenkin liked to build grand. Doors were sized for their own people, but ceilings and passages soared, giving Suna plenty of room to move freely. The servant set the tray on a free table, sliced fruits glistening with juice, a small cut of roasted meat, and left without a word. Suna stepped forward, picked up an apple, took one deliberate bite, chewed slowly, then held the rest out to Kale. Not poisoned. Kale rolled his eyes. There are other tasters. It was already checked. No poison has ever reached me, and none ever will. You're wasting your time. She remained stiff, apple still extended. It is the job of a bodyguard to protect her master at any cost, even against unlikely threats. He sighed, taking the apple. You don't need to prove your loyalty again, Suna. I already know. Then he surprised her. But if you truly want to give me a proof that only you can give, there's one. I need your body. Her posture shifted instantly. The professional mask cracked. A sly, delighted smile curved her lips. Master, if you need my body, that is not quite proper for a bodyguard, but I am willing. Her fingers moved to the clasps of her armor, beginning to loosen them with slow, deliberately sensual grace. Kale rolled his eyes harder. Not metaphorically, not erotically, literally and seriously. She froze mid-motion, one shoulder plate already half undone, expression shifting from flirtatious to attentive in a heartbeat. The romantic haze vanished, only sharp focus remained. She understood. This was not playtime. Kale swallowed once, nerves flickering, then walked past her to a small workbench. He picked up a modest amulet, simple silver with a single emerald set in the center. It was beautifully made but looked almost plain beside her legendary armor and sword. This object can save my life, he said quietly. When it activates, you will understand. Do not resist. Give your body completely. No struggle, no hesitation. If even one small detail changes, it will do nothing. It is stable, it will not break in battle, but it has only one use. I hope we never need it. Yet if an enemy comes that you cannot defeat, even with all your artifacts and armor, you must run. Desert if you have to. If the choice is you die with me or I survive, choose survival. Otherwise the entire plan collapses. You will still die in a way, but at least I will live, and that is what matters. Suna's eyes grew wet. Her hand flew to her sword. She drew it in one sharp motion and pressed the edge to her own throat. How can you command me to desert? Have I not been loyal enough? The sword stopped midair, frozen as if locked in invisible ice. Suna stared at it, confused and startled. Kale exhaled. Stop trying to prove your loyalty with your life every single time. I did not save you all those years ago because I wanted something in return. This is my only plan to survive something you cannot beat. If you die beside me, the plan is worthless. He met her eyes. For your loyalty, I'll give you a small reward. I have authority over everything I forge. That sword was made by my hand. It obeys only my will. I will not let it hurt you. Tears welled in Suna's eyes. She opened her mouth to swear eternal loyalty once more, but Kale waved her off and tossed the amulet. She caught it cleanly, fingers closing around the emerald like it was something sacred. He stayed calm, almost casual, while she stood moved and serious. It probably won't ever happen, but your obsession with me is the only reason this ritual could work at all. You're the only one crazy enough to go along with it willingly. He glanced at her from the corner of his eye as he walked back toward the forge. I cannot guarantee I will be able to resurrect you if the plan triggers. I will try, but with what I know now, I cannot promise success, or that you would come back even if I succeed. And if I ever do bring you back, I won't be the same person anymore. Suna's voice trembled with worry. Do you have any real reason to plan for something this extreme? Kale shrugged, biting into the apple she had tasted. No real reason. Just paranoia in the blood. He chewed thoughtfully. Every one of us likes plans on top of plans. We don't love the name, dwarf, but we are smaller than the others, and yes, we are a bit paranoid. He finished the apple in silence. Both of them knew a poison strong enough for a dwarven kin would not affect a human the same way, yet Suna still could not stop herself from tasting first. Kale turned from the window, the cool breeze still tugging at the ends of his silvery white hair. The city's glow lingered in his peripheral vision, but the familiar cadence of footsteps, deliberate, heavy, unmistakable, pulled his attention toward the door. A ripple of concentrated energy preceded the arrival, no longer masked, rolling ahead like the pressure wave before a forge bellows opened wide. The air thickened, carrying the faint metallic tang of suppressed chi. Geo stepped through the doorway. He stopped short, brows knitting as his gaze swept from Kale to Suna. Two identical suns in two different places at the exact same time. Geo's eyes narrowed. The look he gave Kale was sharp enough to cut steel, suspicion wrapped in paternal curiosity, demanding truth without raising his voice. How, he said slowly, did you get from your quarters to this forge so fast? Kale opened his mouth, already reaching for the easiest deflection. I took the back passage. You know how quick those side tunnels are if you know the turns. Suna stepped forward half a pace, voice calm and perfectly sincere. He did, my lord. I walked with him the whole way. Geo let out a short, dry laugh that held no humor. Suna. He fixed her with the same piercing stare. You are many things. A liar is not one of them, unless the lie protects him. And everyone in this room knows you would burn your own honor to keep his secrets. Your word carries weight, girl, but not in this matter. Suna stiffened. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She tried to look indifferent, turning her head slightly toward the glowing fungi on the ceiling as though the conversation no longer concerned her. But her eyes kept flicking sideways, betraying her interest. Kale exhaled through his nose, frustration flickering behind his calm mask. Father, it's not. Geo raised a hand. Don't insult me by pretending I'm blind, son. I've suspected for years that you carry something different. An innate talent. Something no manual teaches, no sect claims. You're too clever, too prepared, and far too many impossible things happen around you for it to be luck. Kale's shoulders dropped a fraction. He rubbed the back of his neck, the gesture almost boyish. Fine. It was going to come out eventually. He lifted his right hand and swept it sideways. No flare of chi. No visible array. No ripple of yin or yang. The air simply parted. A thin black line appeared mid-motion, as though reality had been sliced open with an invisible blade. Beyond the cut lay absolute darkness, endless, light-devouring void. Then a figure stepped through. It was Kale. Identical down to the last silver strand in the faint forge smoke stain on his sleeve. The rift snapped shut behind him with a soft, wet sound, like glass resealing. The double bowed with exaggerated theatricality, one arm sweeping wide. Well, it seems the curtain rises at last. Geo stared. His frown deepened into something closer to awe. The double straightened, grin widening, too wide, too bright. For the briefest instant its features seemed to liquefy, edges blurring like molten silver. A pulse of energy washed outward, not chi, not spiritual pressure, faith-born aura. Pure emotional resonance. Raw, unshaped feeling given momentary form. Gio's breath caught. That is no clone technique. That is a sentient spirit. And it fooled even me, nascent soul regent of Renewer, for years. The double laughed, a bright, ringing sound that echoed strangely off the stone. Features stretched and reformed. The lazy, handsome face of Kale melted away, replaced by something far more theatrical, a porcelain white mask fused seamlessly to a jester's patchwork body. Black dot eyes gleamed with manic delight. The mouth was an endless dark slit. Bells jingled faintly at the hems of its motley coat even though it had not moved. Kale watched the transformation with quiet satisfaction. This was his masterpiece. Born from the ambient fear of being mistaken for someone else, the desperate wish to be anyone but oneself, the fragile hope of becoming something better, and a deliberate blend of raw positive and negative emotion to stabilize the core. Neutral aligned, infinitely adaptable in appearance, utterly loyal, and completely useless in combat. The jester gave another flourishing bow. Ta-da! Suna's hand had drifted to her sword hilt. Her eyes were wide, not with fear, but with stunned recognition of power she had never suspected. Kale gestured lazily at the creature. Meet the jester. It can look like me. It can fool almost anyone. It cannot fight. It cannot cast techniques. It exists to be me when I need to be somewhere else. He looked back at his father. That's the secret, or part of it. Gio scratched his beard, still staring at the jester as though it might vanish if he blinked. Impressive, he said at last. Terrifyingly impressive. The jester winked one black dot eye, then shimmered and collapsed back into perfect imitation of Kale. Same lazy posture, same half smile, same silvery hair catching the glow of the ceiling fungi. Suna's hand lifted slowly from the hilt of her sword, fingers uncurling as though the weapon had suddenly become foreign. She stared at the jester, eyes wide with something between awe and disbelief, taking in every detail of the figure that now wore Kale's face again. How is that even possible? She asked, voice hushed. A spirit, with its own mind, its own will. The jester's mouth opened, lips curving into a theatrical smile, ready to answer. Then, without warning or sound, the mouth simply vanished. Smooth, featureless skin stretched where lips had been a heartbeat earlier. Kale's eyes turned toward their creator with an expression that somehow managed to look both wounded and comically betrayed, as if asking how he could be so cruel. Kale remained silent, watching. In the next blink the mouth reappeared, the skin reshaping itself like liquid wax settling into familiar lines. The jester gave a small, dramatic sigh. Master obviously doesn't want me to explain the full details right now, it said, voice light and playful. So I won't. There is a special ability. I am connected to him. That is all you need to know. Kale's gaze stayed fixed on his creation for a long moment, the silence stretching until even the distant rumble of forges seemed to fade. Suna's question still hung unanswered in the air. Finally Kale spoke, voice quiet but steady, as though he had decided the time for half-truths was over. Most people think spirits are born only from raw emotion, he said, turning slightly toward Suna. Grief, joy, rage, desire, whatever humanity pours into the world. But they're more than that. They can also rise from fiction, from belief in things that are real or never were. It doesn't matter what the source is. The moment enough minds shape the same idea, the same longing, the manifestation appears. And once it exists, It still obeys the laws of this world. It only looks like it's breaking them. He paused, letting the words settle. You already know the cultivation system, yin and yang, chi gathering, core formation, the slow climb through the realms. That's the first box. Everything we train, everything we refine, runs on that energy. Spirits belong to the second box. They are made from faith, from collective feeling, from the things people believe or fear or wish for. Humanity can never truly reach in and manipulate the source itself. We can only touch the echoes that form afterward. Suna listened without interrupting, her dark green braid shifting as she tilted her head. She had spent years learning only what she needed to protect him: blade forms, defensive stances, the weight and balance of artifacts. The deeper metaphysics of the world had never been part of her training. Kale continued, voice measured. All spirits are complicated echoes of humanity. They are tied to something larger, the counterforce. Some continents call it the heavenly Tao, others simply the will of the world. It is not a god. It is not conscious in the way we are. It is the world's own drive to keep existing. That is why it created the echo world. When battles grow too large, when the clash of powers could shatter nations or scar continents, the counterforce pulls everyone involved into that temporary imitation of reality. Nothing there is permanent. Bodies, weapons, even injuries return exactly as they were the moment the fight ends. It is the world protecting itself. He exhaled softly, almost rueful. Even with every scroll and legacy in Renier's libraries at my disposal, I still don't fully understand how the counterforce works. It simply is. Semi-sentient, unchanging, always the same quiet imperative: survive. And no one, not even the strongest Mahayana cultivator, has ever found a way to bend it. The words settled into the forge like the cool, directionless breeze that drifted through the tunnels. Suna's eyes remained on the jester, now perfectly still, wearing Kale's face once more, as if she could see the invisible threads that bound creation to creator. How is that even possible? She asked, voice low but steady. A spirit that thinks for itself, that has its own awareness, its own personality. I'm not distracted by the theories about echoes or the counterforce. I've heard those before. I just want to know how something like this can exist and be so alive. Kale hesitated. For the first time in the conversation, his usual calm confidence wavered. He shrugged, the motion almost boyish. I honestly don't know. The jester is just special. He can think. He's clever. He understands things I never told him. I never figured out why. It just happened. The jester's face brightened with a delighted smile at the faint praise. He turned toward Geo, sweeping into an elaborate bow. My lord, he said, voice bright with theatrical flair, was my performance satisfactory? Did it at least impress the audience? Geo stroked his graying beard, eyes still fixed on the perfect mirror of his son. Then a deep, rumbling laugh rolled out of him, loud, genuine, the kind that echoed off the stone walls and made the glowing fungi overhead tremble. He stepped forward and clapped the jester hard on the back. Impressive, boy, that was magnificent. You fooled me, and probably half the household for years. I've never seen anything like it. Kale lifted a hand. Enough. Return to the quarters. Play your part. The jester gave one last theatrical wink, then nodded. His body began to dissolve. The solid form liquefied into a shimmering, translucent stream that flowed across the floor like living water, thin as spilled ink. It slid beneath the heavy iron door without a sound, growing thinner and thinner until it vanished completely into the corridor beyond. Kale exhaled. I can only pull him to me. I can't send him back the same way. He'll have to walk. Now only 3 people remained in the forge: Kale, Suna, and Geo. The older man cleared his throat, the sound rough and decisive, as though shoving the entire mystery of the jester into a locked drawer in his mind. He focused on his son with the practical gaze of a regent who still had a kingdom to run. "We need to talk about tomorrow's trade deal," he said. "The preparations are finished. The caravan is ready, but the journey through the deep tunnels to the capital of Nidervalia will still take at least 2 days." He paused, then added, "What's the status of the last Earth-grade weapons, and the reserve pieces we wanted for war preparations?" Kale answered without hesitation. "Everything is on schedule. The guilds have the quotas filled and the final tempering is already underway. We'll have the full set ready in time." Geo nodded once, satisfied, but Kale kept speaking, voice edging toward complaint. "Still, I don't see why I have to go. My brother reached Golden Core months ago. He's far more suited for this kind of diplomatic nonsense than I am. I'm only at the peak of spirit condensation. Anyone with eyes can see he's the better choice." Geo's expression shifted. The easy paternal warmth faded into something heavier, more serious. He looked at his son for a long moment before he spoke. "The king himself has requested you, personally." Kale froze. "He knows the lazy son facade is a lie," Geo continued quietly. "He knows you are the one forging those weapons. The ones that let a spirit condensation cultivator stand on equal footing with nascent soul experts, 2 full realms above. That kind of smithing genius appears once in a century, maybe less. I've seen every master smith in Nidervalia. None of them come close to you. The king has decided it's time he met the real craftsman behind the legend." Kale took an involuntary step backward. He found empty air at the edge of the open window. For one terrifying heartbeat, the glowing city lights below rushed up toward him. Suna was already moving. Her hand shot out, fingers closing around his wrist with iron certainty, and she pulled him firmly back onto solid stone. Kale looked at his father, a flicker of nervousness crossing his face for the first time that evening. "How did the king even find out?" he asked, voice quieter than usual. Geo rolled his eyes, the gesture heavy with long-suffering patience. "It's not exactly shocking, kid. You don't underestimate a man like King Faldor. He's the great hero of our people for a reason. Would you really expect the ruler of Nidervalia to miss something this big?" Suna huffed, an exaggerated, loud breath that filled the forge like steam from an overheated bellows. She was already used to Kale's habit of downplaying every achievement, but it still irritated her every single time. Geo clapped a hand on his son's shoulder, the grip firm and paternal. "Hey, kid, listen. A dwarf not even 50 years old forging saint-grade artifacts that let a spirit condensation cultivator fight 2 full realms above his own level. That's not normal. That's once-in-a-century genius. I've seen every master smith in the kingdom. None of them come close to what you do." Kale tried to shrug it off. "It's not that number," Geo cut him off, voice gentle but final. "Don't downplay this. I know you hate attention. I know you hate formalities even more. But I'm the regent. I can't ignore a direct order from the king. The only thing I could negotiate is that the meeting stays completely private. No court, no audience, just you and Faldor." Kale's shoulders loosened visibly at the words. Relief softened the tension around his eyes. He yawned, long and theatrical. "Then I should probably get some sleep before I start forging something new and show up tomorrow half dead." Geo turned to Suna. "Keep him safe." She straightened instantly, armor plates whispering against each other. "I will stake my life on it, my lord. My soul and body belong to my master. I will give everything." Geo rolled his eyes again, the motion almost fond this time. He reached out and gave her shoulder a light, reassuring pat. Relax, girl. You don't have to prove it every single time. Cale felt a flush of second-hand embarrassment for her. He nodded quickly in agreement with his father. He's right. You can ease up a little. They left the forge together. The corridor beyond was carved from smooth white stone, not marble, but something cooler and older that caught the torchlight in soft amber waves. Braziers sat in regular niches along the walls, bathing the passage in warm, steady glow. No servants crossed their path. Cale wondered whether that was coincidence or whether his father had quietly cleared the halls. When they reached his private quarters, the jester was already sprawled on the long sofa exactly as Cale would have been, one arm draped lazily over the back. The spirit had obviously sent the servants away on his own initiative, anticipating his master's desire to rest. The jester was clever like that. For the first time, the jester did not vanish when Cale prepared for sleep. He remained in the room, now back in his true jester form, porcelain mask fused to patchwork body, black dot eyes and slit mouth. Suna and the jester regarded each other like two predators measuring territory. After a long, silent exchange, Suna saw the same absolute, unshakable loyalty burning in those empty eyes that she carried in her own heart. She accepted him. She slid down the wall opposite the bed, sitting with her back against cool stone, and whispered, "Do we take shifts, or do you not need sleep at all?" The jester's mask tilted. His voice was soft, cautious. "I can stay awake forever. Spirits don't sleep. But I'm weak. I'm very good at creating chaos and confusing enemies. I could probably make enough noise to wake you if an assassin came, but I would die doing it." He spoke of death the way humans spoke of sleep, casual, inevitable, without fear. Suna opened her scarlet eyes and studied him, then glanced at her already sleeping master. "What do you feel about death?" The jester's mask twisted into a dark, living smile, mouth and eyes nothing but black voids. "I am not alive the way humans are. I have no soul, not a metaphor. I think, I feel, but not like you do. I feed on emotion, my own and the world's. I draw energy from the air, from beliefs, from everything that people feel. That is why I cannot travel with Master on the road. There is not enough emotion out there to keep me stable." He paused, the black slit of his mouth curving again. "Death for me is like sleep for you. I was never alive the same way, so I cannot die the same way. I can end, but the same emotions can reconstitute me. I have lived before, several times. Each time I lose pieces of memory. I do not know how much time passed between each life." Suna leaned forward slightly, genuinely fascinated. Here, at last, was someone whose loyalty matched her own intensity, someone she could talk to. The jester's mask softened into something almost gentle. "I cannot explain my master's abilities. He commanded me not to. But I can tell you about the ages I have seen, the forgotten things lost in the long river of time." He leaned closer, black dot eyes gleaming.
Thank you for your attention. This was chapter 1 of the story, The Smith of Gods and Demons. I hope you had fun listening to my story. If you want to see more of my story, leave a comment down below and like the video and recommend it to your friends. You can now see on the left side of the screen the newest video I uploaded. I hope you have a lot of fun. See you again in the next part. Until then, take care and goodbye.